Legend of Total War here, and today we're doing another top 5 Total War video. This time I'll be covering the top 5 longest Total War campaigns. So these are specifically the campaigns that take the most amount of time, not turns, to go from the beginning of the campaign to conquering the entire map. So with that being said, let's jump in now to number 5. Coming in at number 5 is Total War 3 Kingdoms. Now, I'm a little bit unsure about its placement on this list because I haven't yet conquered the entire map with any faction, but I have put in a decent amount of hours, and I got the gist of how long it takes to expand based on that time. Now, there are a lot of regions in this game. I don't know exactly how many, but there are, like I said, there's a lot. Now, that doesn't itself warrant a long campaign. If you take Thrones of Britannia into consideration, it has one of the most settlements in any Total War game, but most of those settlements have absolutely no defenses, and so the campaign ends up being actually quite short. This, however, is the opposite. Every settlement seems to have huge garrisons. Now, some of them are very easy to take out, some of them not so easy. Walled settlements sometimes can take 20, 30, even 40 minutes, depending on how many troops are there. There's a lot of things that contribute to extending the gameplay into getting your faction all across the map. The beginning of the campaign is not necessarily go for every single settlement that you can find, because all the settlements at the beginning of the campaign are just not valuable. You need time to build up the ones that you've got, or else you just won't be able to defend them properly, and that takes time. In addition to that, while that time's going on, the AI forces will usually form some sort of mega coalition, as what I've seen is one or two factions just seem to gobble up all the other minor factions as vassals, and that can make doing diplomacy with them once war has finally been declared quite difficult and quite grindy to fight them down. All of this consuming more time. So that's why that Total War 3 Kingdoms is getting the number 5 slot on this list. I don't think it's the longest Total War campaign we've ever seen, but it's certainly right up there. Let's move on now to number 4. Coming in at number 4 is Medieval 2 Total War's Grand Campaign. Now, if you've played thousands of hours in this game, yeah, you can roll over this map really quickly. And I am able to, conquer the map in just a couple of turns. But it's not about turn-wise, it's about how much time it takes. Now, there's a number of things that make Medieval 2's campaign take perhaps a little bit longer than otherwise it should have. Assaulting a castle settlement, whilst you can certainly derp out the AI, taking your time and maybe spending half an hour doing it could yield real benefits. Taking your time with most battles, being patient with the AI and waiting for them to create a weakness for you to exploit can lead to a great benefit. In addition to that, there are events that occur that slow down the gameplay. There's the Mongol invasion and the Timurid invasion. Both of those are not going to go down without at least a couple of hours fighting, unless you intend to just assassinate every single one of their lords, which not everyone is going to do, and not everyone's going to be prepared to do that. In addition to that, there is an entire section of the map locked off until around turn 200, which is the Americas map. And since I did state full map completion, you do have to get to essentially turn 200 before you can arrive and finish the map. So that's the main contributor as to why Medieval 2 is on this list. Overall, Medieval 2 is not a difficult campaign. Okay, even for people that have never played a Total War game before, they really shouldn't have any problem picking this up and doing a middling job. It's really about the events that make this campaign take a long time, and that's why it's getting the number 4 slot on this list. Let's move on now to number 3. Coming in at number 3 is Total War Attila. The Grand Campaign has a total of 186 settlements, but it's not the number of settlements that necessarily makes this game so long to conquer. There's lots of little things that will slow you down. At the beginning of the campaign, barely any settlements are developed, and that's normal. But the thing is, they grow really slowly. It can take, in some cases, 100 turns to get from a settlement from the start of its campaign to being, having all of its build slots, which is required in some cases just to maintain public order. Now, the AI is a big hindrance in this. Whilst beating them in battle is not particularly difficult, oftentimes the AI don't necessarily seek you in battle. The bigger you are, the more of a target you are, especially at the beginning of the campaign, and you won't be able to afford loads and loads of armies. And they have a tendency of burning settlements to the ground. Or even if they're not able to beat you in battle, they'll still raid the territory and cause revolts. So you will end up fighting a lot of battles in this campaign, and I mean a lot of them. So many that it will be very time consuming. Now, the battles themselves don't take particularly long, but it's just the sheer number of them that you will end up fighting. Now, there's also the event of dealing with the Huns. Now, it does largely depend on where you're located. If you're directly in the path of the Huns, then you're probably going to have to deal with it first. But if you're located in Africa, for example, then you can probably just wait it out. But that will, of course, take up time. Now, on top of that, a lot of the game's internal problems that'll stop you from expanding really quickly is, of course, public order and food. And a lot of that is solved in the tech tree, and the tech tree takes some time to complete. Even if you do rush the technologies with certain boosts, it will still take you a very long time to get to here, which this particular tech here with every faction, the final one, the civic section, is kind of required in order to finally lock down every settlement. I mean, that is unless you're happy with having every single one of your provinces revolting at all times. This is, of course, unless you're playing on the lower difficulty settings where you don't have to worry about that -8 public order penalty. So there's a lot of different things that'll hinder your progress in Total War Attila, which is why it's getting the number 3 slot on this list. Let's now move on to number 2. Coming in at number 2 is Empire Total War. Now, at the time of release, Empire Total War had the largest campaign map with the most number of settlements in a Total War game, with 137 regions, which has now been vastly surpassed, across 3 different campaign theaters, which, in terms of overall map coverage, Empire Total War is the largest. It has Europe, which is by far the largest, India, and America. So a huge campaign map. But that's not the main reason why it's so long. It's actually the battles that make this campaign take so long. In most Total War games, battles on the field can be over pretty quickly because it's mostly reliant on getting into melee, having a bit of a skirmish maybe, killing the enemy general maybe, and then causing a mass rout. Battles could be anywhere from 5 minutes to 10 minutes. But in Empire Total War, battles will be routinely 20 or 30 minutes long, just due to the way that battles worked in this time period. Artillery setup, firing at each other, is not as accurate as what it is in other Total War games, and not as deadly, due to the fact they have unlimited ammunition. So taking your time and doing so, and utilizing your artillery's unlimited ammo, whilst being time consuming, is very effective. In addition to that, marching your units just walking in a straight line is again time consuming. The maps are reasonably big, and the armies are also reasonably big as well. In addition to that, once they finally get into range with one another, the firing rates are pretty slow. So a good firing line could take several minutes before another side routs. And even if it does rout, they might come back and have another try at it. So battles will take a long time. In addition to that, the AI will produce absolute assloads of armies in the late campaign. So you will be fighting many, many battles. In addition to, of course, naval battles, which are not able to capture settlements, but are crucial for controlling the seas, which is very lucrative. And those are the primary reasons why Empire Total War gets the number 2 slot on this list. Now let's move on to the number 1, the longest Total War campaign to get to full map completion. Taking the number 1 slot for the longest Total War campaign goes to Total War Warhammer 2's Mortal Empires. Now there is a lot of different factors that contribute to getting this to full map completion and why it takes so long. For one thing, it has the largest campaign map in a Total War campaign with over 300 settlements. Now, whilst there are minor settlements which don't have walls, most settlements by the late campaign will end up having walls, even the minor settlements, and they can be time consuming to capture, depending of course on how you go about it. Now, in Total War Warhammer 2, you are not really able to just auto-resolve many battles. Only the weakest of enemies will be able to just be brushed aside with an auto-resolve, and those are the battles that would have only taken a minute to fight anyway. Now, in terms of the pacing for the battles, you're probably, for a field battle, probably going to be set back between 5 minutes and 15 minutes, of course, depending on how large the enemy force is. Siege battles could take you anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour, again, depending on how you go about it, depending on how large the forces are. But you will be fighting a lot of battles in a particular campaign. Even if you manage to get a lot of confederations, you're probably going to be fighting somewhere in the vicinity of 400 to 600 battles if you are fast in a full map completion Mortal Empires campaign. So there's a lot of different things that will contribute to it, and it's not just the enemies that have settlements. You've also got to deal with enemies that don't have settlements, such as rogue armies, the armies that you'll fight when taking treasures, and of course the Chaos Invasion. So all of these different factors contribute to Total War Warhammer 2's campaign taking a really long time. So that's my top 5 list. Let me know what you think, if you disagree or agree, and I'll see you in the next video, fuckers.